Welcome to the third episode of Junto Club. On this episode, we figure out how to get people to like you. We talk about space because it's cool. Have a discussion about what is consciousness and mortality that leaves everyone uncomfortable. And wrap up ranting on free speech and cancel culture. For any questions, comments, or to commiserate over your existential crises, email juntoclubpodcast@gmail.com. This is Junto Club.
Junto Club.
This is the Junto Club. Taking inspiration from Benjamin Franklin's Junto Club, we tried to have good faith discussions about interesting topics of the day, heavily focusing on philosophy, politics, and science, so we can, learn more and become a little better.
That's pretty good. All right.
Cool. Very, very good, Matt.
So, as usual, I guess I will start with Benjamin Franklin's story. So, he basically, when he was in assembly, I think he was almost like modern day equivalent of a House member or something, or in the Senate. So, when he was elected to it, there's one person that was really against him. So against his election to it, and then just doesn't like him, right? So instead, Benjamin will try to figure out how to win him over, right? So usually, I guess most people would just, maybe let me be nice to this person, right? This guy. So what he did instead of doing that, he actually figured out that this person has a rare book that in his collection. So Benjamin actually asked this guy for a favor, to do him a favor. Now, hey, can I borrow the book from you? Right? And then this guy, sure. And then this guy says, yeah, sure. And then after a week, after Benjamin returned the book, right? And then wrote a nice thank you note, stuff like that. And after that, this guy became actually very nice to Benjamin Franklin, right? So the reason is that I think it was that there's the quote that he says that something he learned, like he that has once done you a kindness will be more ready to do you another than he who you yourself have obliged, right? So which means that whenever if you want to win someone over, right, instead of try to do someone a favor, flatter him, you should ask the person to do you a favor, right? So that's very a little bit counterintuitive. So I found that very interesting, maybe a little bit more maybe practical as well. So what do you think?
You can go, Mike.
Well, I was just going to say initially I sort of interpreted differently. Like I was thinking if you're sort of considering two different people and one you've done a lot of nice things for, and the other one has done a nice thing for you, I guess the thinking would be that person who has done something nice for you already has the character or has some type of motivation for wanting to do nice things for you. So if they had to do something nice again, then they're more likely to do something nice for you than the person you've done, the person who you've done a lot of nice things for may just have may not care about doing nice things for you, whereas I guess the person who's done at least one good thing for you has already proven that they will. So essentially go with you have more faith in that person doing a nice thing than the person you've done a lot of nice things for, because that you doing nice things doesn't, I guess, say anything about their regard for you. So,
Well, I have heard about this idea, though. I don't know if I heard it in the context of Benjamin Franklin, but asking a favor, it's not just a way to figure out who might like you or be more amicable, but it's actually does make people like you better. And I mean, there's probably some qualifications, right? You don't want to ask them too many things or they'll get annoyed, or anything that's overly burdensome. But something really easy, borrowing a book, right, is generally not a big deal. But I feel
to be fair, this is a rare book.
Okay, that's true. Maybe it's a rare book. But I feel like to some degree, asking someone for like a personal favor is like intimate in some, like to some degree, right? Like that makes you feel like someone's sort of like, I don't know. It's personal. They're like coming to you for help. And I can see how that can sometimes, shift people. If you have let's say this guy doesn't like Benjamin Franklin, so he kind of has an adversarial perspective with him, right? Like when he talks to him or sees him, he thinks, like, I got to stop that guy. I don't want him to do this, blah, blah, blah. But like asking him to do a simple favor kind of flips that on the head, right? It's like, like, can we work together, do this in a positive light?
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm just rambling. That's my gut on it, but.
Yeah, that's pretty good point. Yeah, it flips. Yeah, I think that's kind of what it is, right? It's like you ask someone for like 25 cents, and then it's easier for you to ask him for $1 if they say yes to the 25 cents, right? Maybe, I don't know. And then I guess maybe if Biden is listening to this, I think he should adopt this strategy and then, win, Mitch McConnell over, right? So.
That's all it takes. Biden just needs to ask for Mitch's favorite book, and then boom, bipartisan alignment.
Well, first he needs to learn to Junto Club. Another thing I just thought about is something to do with maybe cognitive dissonance, right? So you have like two conflict ideas in your head, right? So initially you don't like this person. But this person asks you for a favor, and you do the favor for this person you don't like. So somehow your brain need to consolidate, kind of convince yourself why did you do the favor for this person that you don't like. So I said, oh, okay, now maybe I do like this person. So maybe, I don't know. It's just theory.
Yeah, well, I can sort of understand what you're saying. Or not even necessarily that I do like this person, but there's something innate in people that I guess even if I don't like this person, I don't want this person not to dislike me, or I don't want this person to dislike me. Mm-hmm. So, and I don't know, like there's definitely, I would say, and Matt, the way he went, like he could be one of them. But I think there's definitely some people, me being included, that it's very hard for me to like be like, oh, I like legitimately could give a shit less, like if this person dislikes me. Like, there are definitely some people where I guess I could be like that. But I think if you're a people pleasing person, it's very hard. Like even if you find very little value in a person, that like, if that person asks you to do something, you're probably going to do it just so you don't feel like the asshole.
I think that's pretty common. I think most people generally prefer people to like them and aren't looking to like, obviously there are people who are like intentionally antagonistic just in their day-to-day life, but that's a minority. Most people want to be helpful and nice, at least at a superficial level.
All right, good. So speaking of getting people to like you, have you read a book, How to Win Friends and Influence People?
Professional transition there, Shu. Just saying.
That's right.
Exactly.
No, I've heard of it, and I was actually glad when I saw you put this down in our list, because I've heard of it and heard some good things, but I've never gotten around to reading it. So you can just teach us how it works, so we can convince everyone.
So can you? So it's by Dale Carnegie. And the book was published in the 1920s and 30s. It's one of the most popular business books, and it has a bad title, but it has very good advice in there how to be likable in a way. So Matt, can you read the principles, the steps?
All right, I got this. There's 6 steps listed out by Shu. They are: 1, become genuinely interested in other people. 2, smile. 3, remember that a person's name is to that person the sweetest and most important sound in any language. 4, be a good listener. Encourage others to talk about themselves. 5, talk in terms of the other person's interest. And 6, make the person feel important and do it sincerely.
Exactly. This is so it's not from me. It's from the book. He actually listed like these 6 principles, right? So, what do you think?
No, I mean, intuitively it makes sense. And you could really wrap these up into mostly be nice and focus on the other person.
Right.
So after I read it, and this book actually has quite a lot of impact on me because before that I was very bad with like small talks. I really hate I hated going to parties because I don't know how to talk to people, right? Because I'm always like hesitant going to party because if all these people, even some of the people I know, right? But I still don't know just very don't know how to talk like continuously for a long time, right? And especially talking to strangers, like, hey, my name is Xu, and what's your name and stuff like that. I just don't know how to do it, right? After reading this book, I guess I started to practice some of the stuff like practice some of these tips, right? So one thing I started with just to very simple step is just to remember every time you meet someone, just remember someone's name, and then the next time you see him, just say the name again. So especially when you because I go to Starbucks a lot, right? So Starbucks need to sponsor this podcast, right? Because anyway, so I go to Starbucks a lot, so I talk to some of the baristas. So start from there. I try to speak, try to remember the names and talk to them the next time, and then also on the street, when I see strangers, I would try to maybe nod my head, right? And then also, if sometimes maybe we are in a line in the store somewhere, and then I'm pretty open to maybe say something to them, right? And then we start a conversation going. And then once I started doing that, I practiced more, and I became actually very, very curious about what's curious about other people, right? As I listen to more, it kind of reinforced my curiosity. It's like, oh, these people are actually interesting. If I just keep asking some of the questions, right, dig deeper, right? So that kind of snowball into, basically made me a little bit better, more better and better with people, especially when I talk to strangers, right? And so I guess to summarize it is, I say all these will just come down to simple one word. Now I summarize is curious, right? Just be very curious with other person, genuinely, right? That way, that's how you'll be likable, I guess. Win friends, influence people. So yeah. Anyway,
that's a good way to put it. Be curious about other people.
Yeah.
I like that.
No, I mean, there's. Have you heard of StoryCorps or something?
Yeah.
Yeah. So essentially, it's just I believe it's usually relatives, but I guess it could be friends or anyone who thinks a person in your life has an interesting story to share. I think you go to a professional recording studio and they just essentially allow you to interview that person in your life, and they have these stories in public domain, I guess, and anyone can listen to them. So yeah, so it's, I mean, I guess it follows sort of the same principle that any life has stories to tell that can be interesting and meaningful for others' consumption.
Yeah, that's my one of the inspirations for my other podcast called Voices of Atlanta, right? Instead of a story format, instead of interviewing your family member, sit down, right? I basically just go out on the street and then just talk to people of Atlanta and ask them questions. And so, yeah, you should listen to that too.
Yes. She's getting all kinds of plugs in.
Exactly.
So, yeah, no, I mean, it's true. I mean, just as someone who's pretty interested in neuroscience and psychology, I mean, I'm interested in how people function at sort of high and low levels. So, I mean, it makes sense to, I guess, try to understand people's behavior as best you can. But,
yeah.
Bringing up something Shu said earlier, though, he mentioned, in his Starbucks example, getting to know the barista, some of whom he went on dates with. So is this how you pick up women as well, Shu? No comment.
Common. It could be useful. Yeah.
Under the pretense of trying to be better at speaking to people. True.
I mean, speaking to people is very like, just be curious, right? It's sometimes, of course, if someone like you, of course, someone would go out with you. So it's very useful. So if you're going to go dating, right? This would be very, very useful. Just instead of talking about yourself, let the other person talk about themselves and ask them to be curious, right? And then, yeah.
Well, I mean, to be fair, those 6 points did very much read like dating 101. Like, don't be a self-obsessed ass and listen to the other person.
Yeah. So reading a book if you want to have better dates, I guess.
You just got to start marketing this to incels, dude. That could be your big break.
Yeah. To who?
Incels?
What has that?
Are you familiar with this term, Michael?
Yes. No,
it's internet lingo for involuntary celibate. So like people who can't have, basically guys who can't have sex or get women to date them, and then they're usually angry about it, and occasionally go on shooting rampages. Generally not considered good people.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
So the internet has decided, yes, that the people, like, I mean, it's often a term used, like, just when people go on, like, rampages about, like, often far-right ideology on different, like, Reddits and those types of social medias. So.
Or they'll, these weird rants about how, like, women, society's unfair because they're not tall, so women don't want to date them, and this is like the greatest injustice in human history.
Oh yeah,
like
Bagel Guy. Remember Bagel Guy?
Yeah, that's right.
He was famous.
We cannot plug for Bagel Guy here. All right. Any final words on this? Otherwise, now we can just move to...
All right, question. Do you think we need to read the book, or do you feel like this captures the core point well enough?
It captured the core point well enough, but I feel like you should definitely read the book. Yeah, it's easy read anyway. It definitely helps a lot. Give you a lot more examples, in-depth stuff. So, yeah. Stories. Yeah. Because there's other principles as well. This is just a small part of it. There's other stuff, like how you make other people to do stuff, right? There's like 7, 6, 7, 10 principles under that, right? So, yeah. Especially when you're moving into a business, when you're working for a company, when you try to maybe lead other people, right? How do you make other people do stuff? So, yeah. The secret is to make your idea. Basically, make them think that your idea is their idea in a way. But anyway, so that's a little bit too much. Anyways, yeah, just...
You ask questions and use the Socratic method.
Well,
yeah, that was too.
Semi-related while we're talking about this, my dad's, like a kind of businessman, salesman by trade and probably nature. I think he's like a pretty good salesman. And he would always say the first thing you do is just ask what people want. And then, no matter what they say, you explain how your thing answers, their needs or whatever. So, yeah. First things, if you're trying to get someone to do something, is figure out what they want to do. And then make sure it aligns somehow.
Oh, my trainer, I think you actually told me that, like, when I started using a trainer at Georgia Tech. Like, remember, I went and, like, he's like, oh, like, essentially the first thing he asked is like, oh, why did you sign up? And then, like, I was like, I said, my workouts have been sort of getting a little bit in a rut. Like, I'm good about getting to the gym basically every day, but, like, I do what I enjoy doing, which is upper body, and don't mix it up enough. He's like, and basically his response was like, oh yeah, every day here you're going to get a different workout. Like, we're going to do whole body. Like, it was literally exactly what you said, word for, like, what do you want? And then, like, yeah, we have that exactly. So.
Yeah, I'm guessing he's got multiple workout plans ready on the fly to be like, that's what we were going to do, exactly what you just requested.
Yeah.
So, yeah. I mean, I assume it's not an amazing secret. I'm guessing a lot of people who are trained in sales or in that background work with that. But we're in like the
Right.
STEM engineer mindset, so it's a little more. I don't see it as often or brought up as often, but it's a good advice.
Yeah, no, that's true.
So have you read this book?
No, but there was some other book.
Uh,
God, what was it? It was a famous book on like sales that he's recommended before.
Get into Yes?
No, it's some guys. I think the name started with a Z.
Oh, Ziegler?
Yeah, you've heard of that?
Yeah, he's pretty famous.
Yeah, that might be more old school, but that was his, like book to learn from, I guess. Zig Ziglar.
Got you. He's pretty famous, yeah. All right, should we get into Bezos?
All right. Well, we got a lot of topics here, and I don't know if we're going to cover all of them. So, what do y'all want to talk about next? I don't think the Bezos thing will go very far, but
Let's talk about it. Is that whose topic was it?
that was me. I dropped that in there. I saw something. So basically, I saw something about Amazon successfully testing a new rocket engine, and they're like, "This is the engine that's going to put the first woman on the moon." And I'm like, I didn't know Amazon was getting into space travel, and I'm like, and they're trying to put someone back on the moon, and they're going to make it like a woman for like a PR thing. But they actually are pretty far. I saw a clip of them. They had just like SpaceX, they already have a rocket that has like launched something and then like come down and landed like with a controlled burn to like do a soft landing. So they have a reusable rocket. And I watched the video, and it was on land. It wasn't on a barge, which a barge makes things harder, but it was really smooth, like really stable. Once it got down and like stopped, it was almost unnatural how like stable and still it was in the air with a rocket. I was like, is this a real video? Am I being like tricked by CGI? I think it was legit though. So
interesting. Is that? I mean, Blue Origin. I know they have been. I think we talked about that before. Blue Origin, but is that why Elon Musk always saying that Bezos is just a copycat because he always just copy whatever SpaceX does?
Maybe. I mean, it is clearly sharing some ideas with SpaceX. Like
a lot. This is that. What do you mean? Share idea? It's exactly an idea.
It is the idea.
SpaceX was the first one to do it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and also I think last time was I think Amazon bought Zoox, one autonomous driving company. Mm-hmm. So then that's the time when Elon was like, "Oh man, you just copycat." Copycat.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
But Amazon's got about 50 times the capital to work with to invest in these things. So
yeah. So what was it? Go ahead.
Oh, okay. Well, may have been asking a similar question, just in the sense of, is Amazon putting sort of a woman on the moon? Is that because I saw an article about NASA trying to essentially put like a moon base in like some crater on the moon. Are they working with NASA, or is this just totally independent?
I don't know, but I think I saw something related to NASA and that mission. I didn't do like a bunch of research. Maybe next time I'll do better.
How do you put a crater in the moon?
Well, no. They're putting so they would be putting some, like actually have people living like in a crater on the moon.
Oh, okay. Well, actually more exciting news. I think China just launched a lunar or something to the moon, right? Lander to the moon, and they're going to bring back some moon rocks.
Oh, yeah, I saw that. Yeah.
What are they going to do with the moon rocks?
I don't know. Just say, hey, we are back in the moon, and now it's China's turn.
We'll see if Amazon beats China to the moon.
Yeah.
Yes.
And then maybe in the future we'll have like rocket delivery packages, if you really need that real fast package from like across the coast, Amazon rocket flies over, lands in your driveway, drops off the package. That'd be service.
The moon, in 20 years, the moon will be an Amazon fulfillment center.
To Mars?
Yeah, maybe. Well, that's actually why they're saying they want like a base on the moon to help with getting people. Like they want a base on the moon in the next 10 years, so in the following 10 years they can use that to facilitate a mission to Mars.
Okay, actually, one thing that Bezos has a unique point of view is that so Elon Musk SpaceX is always about going to Mars, right?
Mm-hmm.
And Bezos actually have a different view, which I found interesting, is that he says that we don't need to go to Mars. All we need to do is just live in a space station. So all we need to just build space station out in the space. And it's the same thing. There's no need for us to go to Mars, basically, right? So I found that a little bit interesting, not as copycat-catty. So
that's a good point. Yeah. I mean, yeah, to some degree, since you need basically an entire station to live on Mars anyway, it's like, what are you gaining? But Mars does have gravity, which is nice for humans because, we're used to and evolved to deal with gravity. So in terms of like long-term living, I mean, you can do stuff with like space stations that spin and things, but, I don't know. There's different perspectives, but yeah, maybe you just have a floating space station that, collects asteroids occasionally to get some resources, and I don't know.
Well, that's true. The asteroids part. But I was going to say Mars is not necessarily totally devoid of resources. So, yeah. But I mean, no, actually, this is something that I've sort of thought of a lot. But will humans essentially as much as we don't know how the universe is going to end, and the end of the story is probably horrible and sad anyway. I guess it would make me feel somewhat better if we're actually able to get off of Earth, at least in the sense of getting out into the solar system or solar system, galaxy, universe. I mean, do you think that humans, before we meet our demise here, will actually be able to, I guess, populate other areas of the universe?
Almost certainly, right? I mean, when you look at the progression of technology in the course of one lifespan, people who were around the first time anyone flew got to see, streaming live TV images of someone walking on the moon, right? It's just a ridiculously absurd progression of technology. And while space travel has been kind of not really progressing as fast, I feel like a lot of the tech and science that we need to go from a very expensive temporary mission to a permanent thing is being developed, right? We're kind of catching up on the areas that we really need to make long-term space travel possible. And we're doing it so fast. It might not be in our lifetimes, probably won't be in our lifetimes, but you say a few hundred years at this rate, as long as climate change doesn't cause a pseudo apocalypse where everyone goes back to living in tribes and just foraging for food, I think it will be, not that long relatively.
Yeah, no, that's sort of my thinking too. I guess I've heard arguments just about the amount of energy it would take, the amount of the speed at which these massive pseudo ships that carry people, across different galaxies would need is just so immense compared to anything we can conceptualize now that it's unlikely, just given I guess this is also coming from a pessimistic perspective. People are very quick to say, oh, we'll destroy ourselves before we can get there. But I sort of hope that, it sort of seems as you say, it's trending where we figure out a way to, construct the ship and get the energy to have some type of arc, I guess.
Yeah, I think we're probably not going to destroy ourselves, but we'll see about that. But, obviously if the thing about these ships to another solar system or something, really realistically at that point, it's not as much a transport as just a artificial planet. It has to be a self-sustained station that can, have generations of humans live and survive, right? That's the only way we're going anywhere else in the solar system. So at that point, you're just sort of making your floating asteroid base that maybe we can happen to pass by some planets, in a few hundreds to thousands of years later, right? But this is not something you build on Earth and then launch into space. This is something you build in space because the energy, you're right, is just enormous to move material off Earth. But we have the moon or asteroids, which you can get. Robotics is going to get better. Eventually, we probably have robots that could mine asteroids, make materials, kind of automatically assemble a frame in space is pretty easy actually, because there's no gravity. So actually, assuming you got the right machines, that wouldn't actually take as much energy to construct large structures.
Right.
And then, you start using things like slingshots, like gravity slingshots and stuff. You slowly move it into the right places, and then the gravity of the planets can help you accelerate you in certain directions, things like that. There's a lot of ways, clever ways to get around this. You don't brute force it by building something on Earth and trying to launch it off to, the next solar system. But
right. I always wanted to be like an astrophysicist before, but I figured like robotics was more practical.
Why did you want to be an astrophysicist?
Space is cool.
Space is cool. I also considered being a physicist. I got a minor in physics, but yeah, it's kind of like a really fun subject, but then you're like, what's the work you actually do? And you're like, that's not as interesting.
Yeah. I thought about that too. Like, actually, in China, I was like, in class, I was just daydreaming. I was just looking out the window. I was looking at the sky. Oh, okay. I said, it would be nice if one day, I can be out there in the space, right? So that's why in high school in the U.S., I tried to study, I guess, aerospace engineering.
Mm-hmm.
I realized, you need to be a U.S. citizen. And then, so I was like, let me switch to electrical engineering then. But anyway, but now I'm a U.S. citizen, but it doesn't really. Anyway, so long story short, actually, space travel sounds very, very interesting like science fiction, but I feel like it almost like reflects a tendency of human nature to escape the reality, right? So you escape the problem of like destroying Earth by just escaping to other places. It's almost like related to the human tendency to escape reality, right? You go to other places instead of staying home, and then and fixing your own stuff. Also, you always look outside instead of try to examine what's inside, right? And inside you be more introspective, like examine yourself a little bit more, right? So I find that a little bit kind of, I don't know, just not ironic, but just something I see, right? It's like, okay, it's like all reflect a human tendency to escape instead of travel inward to be more to whatever uncover more that is actually maybe there's a lot more interesting things that inside yourself. Also, like even though space is unexplored, actually there's like maybe 70% of the ocean of the Earth are still unexplored, right? So maybe we should travel deep into Earth, explore those before we go outside, right? So
this is very Buddhist, but I will say that this is something essentially something I thought about shows. So part of the reason I guess I'm interested in understanding people and how technology can be used to facilitate sort of the understanding of people and also the upkeep of people's health and mind, etc., is I guess sort of that exact point. So, I mean, space or the universe very well may be infinite. It's a very it's literally going to take all of human history and existence to understand what's out there and what to do about it and etc. But I guess step one for me. So when I think about when I was younger and I was thinking about my life and I was thinking about, look at all that's out there to explore, I sort of took a step back and I was like, well, the time I have is very, very brief if I just focus on that. So the first thing I need to focus on is how to turn myself into a cyborg so I can live for tens of thousands of years to figure out that. So basically, I guess the first step for me is understanding the human mind better to the point it can be preserved and individuals can be preserved.
Is that why you want to work for Neuralink? Because that's what they're doing, right?
Yes, exactly. Well, that's what every billionaire wants to do. Because every billionaire is like, I have enough money to live forever, and I have 30 years left. What can I do to live forever now? So,
should have been born 100 years later, because genetic engineering's coming, but we're not quite there yet.
No, I know.
When were you thinking about this? Were you teenager or like younger?
I mean, probably teenage. Yeah, probably like in college when I started to like study neuroscience and mortality became like a little bit like, or it became a little bit more relevant in my life. So,
why is that?
well, I mean, I would say death of people. I was like, I mean, my dad's death didn't happen until I was in Georgia, so I was 23. But I mean, I would say just like very aware. I mean, with like, for example, like when I was studying neuroscience, like the first paper I read, like I used to do human vision research, and the first paper I read like talked about the studying cells in like macaque monkeys or something. And basically they literally gave names to these two monkeys, and they talked about like sticking electrodes in their brain to measure action potentials. And in the paper, they're like, okay, yeah, so after we finished running these tests with electrodes in the brains, the monkeys were euthanized. And I was like, what? Like, you killed the monkeys? And I was like, so
then
I guess
realized you're just a monkey in the society.
That's right. And then I was like, oh my God, like, in order to understand anything, like, death is a necessity, I guess. But, so, and yeah, so I guess I was like, okay, like, if these monkeys have to die to understand what I need to understand, then we better do it fast. So I better focus there.
All right, but Neuralink is not the way forward, because even if we can scan the brain, model it, accurately enough to understand all the important components, model it, and, simulate that to like execute a mind that's realistic, it wouldn't be you. It would just be a copy of you.
Well, I mean, I guess you could. I mean, Neuralink, right, has a robot that's attaching a robot that's essentially implanting electrodes in sort of areas of the brain to, I guess, get a accurate and sort of whole brain reading at like incredibly fast speeds. And their plan is essentially to also have that robot be able to insert, as you say, like electrodes to write to the brain. So I guess in theory that there could be some type of robotic, like nanotechnology that also is used along with writing to, I guess, help upkeep the brain. So, I mean, as neurons begin to get a little bit iffy, I mean, they're like in theory, a robot could, I guess, take note of that, and whether it's by printing replica neurons or, I mean, I don't know. I mean, I don't know exactly what it would be, but I mean, there must be a way to like essentially detect based on these readings, okay, like this area of the brain is degrading. Like there's some type of event that's causing this to degrade. And then you could sort of replace those neurons, much like if you have a broken arm, you get it's reset, you get a cast, like bone regrows, that's still you. So, I mean, if you're replacing small enough areas or healing small enough areas, it's still you. So
I'm okay with that. I think you're in the wrong field, though. I feel like genetic engineering is about 1,000 years closer to giving us immortality than nanobots that like measure your neurons and fix them, or print replica neurons out somehow. Because I mean, we have lines of stem cells in the lab, right, that live forever. Like that they use for like a lot of the human testings on this, like a few lines of cells that just had a few mutations and they just replicate forever, right? Mm-hmm. And we have stem cells. I mean, like if we get to the point where we could inject your own stem cells, modified to be like repaired, like repair your stem cells DNAs and like re-inject them to like heal yourself, like that's practically to immortality there, right? I'm sure the biologists who aren't actually listening would be like, this guy's an idiot. He doesn't know anything about biology. It's obviously still far off and there's complications, but that seems much more reasonable than nanobots in your brain.
That's 100%. Like I have equally like that is something I want to do a lot more reading on.
But this one, I think Elon Musk, it was interview was talking about just talk about memory, right? Can you replay? I think he was asked like, can you replay the memory back, just like recording these signals in the future, right? It's like, yeah, I guess if you can record a signal, you can regenerate a memory, right? So but what is memory? If you are just if your memory is you, right? Then if you just store that memory in a machine, then the machine becomes you, right? So it doesn't have to be a physical neuron, right? It could be just like computer neurons, right? So,
well, that's
you can be basically like machine in the future, right? You can live forever as a machine, basically.
Well, so I would say memory is a big part of like who you are, but I don't think that's all that it is. One, and two, even if they did have everything in a machine, like I said, that's a copy of you, not you. So in a sense, you can say there's some version of me that lives forever, and maybe that's satisfying to you. But you, the you that is experiencing like, the present time and stuff, you don't get to live forever. It's not that different from if they clone you, right? Like, and you could be, it's kind of similar to that. It's like, oh, is this clone you? And they raise it, and then let's say they neuralink your memories into the clone, because we'll say that's something they can do in the future, right? That clone wouldn't be you, and anything it goes on to do and experience with its like new life, you would never experience. But you could say, oh, there's a version of me that now gets to live, and if they just keep cloning you, you could say I live forever. But that's not the live forever that I would be interested in, right? Like, it's not about, I'm not like I'm such a gift to the world that there just needs to be some version of me forever, because it would be like the tragedy to humanity. It's just, I want to experience and learn more things, experience more things, see what happens in the future.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it's sort of like, yeah. I mean, I guess the way they talk about sort of like, oh, you can back yourself up to your computer. It's almost like in like machine learning, if you're like, training a model, like you can train like so many epochs and like back up the model, and like you can load different versions of that model. Like, I guess in theory, yes, you could essentially store your brain at different times, but I'm sort of on board with Matt that like if you loaded one of those storages, it's not like it's just gonna, oh, this is me from 2 years ago. It's like it's a copy of you from 2 years ago. So
yeah, but is that the same thing? Like yesterday's you is not you anymore, right? You are not.
So we're constantly dying.
Yeah, is that what Matt is? Is that what you're saying?
I mean, that's what we could be going down this path. Yeah, like when you really dig into the details of like what makes you, the problem is there's not really an answer. So you start getting to like weird things like, are you dying every day, every minute? Like every time you go to sleep, do you die and someone else wakes up? Stuff like that, because, because sometimes people will be like, to solve the issue of like, how's a copy that's like identical to you in every way? Like, how's it different? And then sometimes people will be like, well, there's like a constant stream of consciousness that like evolves over time, but it's like, but you lose consciousness all the time as a human being. So, yeah, I don't know. I don't have all the answers, but a machine copy of you is not you. I'll say that much with confidence.
Well, if he has your past memory, it's almost like you waking up, right? And then there's another day, right? And then and it's like almost like parallel universe of you, right? Even though it's branching out, but it's still you. Your past memory just experience something different. Right now, you are doing actually getting to actually experience something simultaneous almost in a way.
Well, that's what the copy of you would experience, right? It would experience having been you, it'd have all those memories, and then suddenly waking up in this new situation, a new body, a new computer, being in a computer, whatever. But I mean, okay, we've talked about the teleporter problem, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Like, y'all want to go into that, or are we going to move on to another topic?
Yeah, I was saying let's move on, I guess.
Okay, yeah, we've dug into this.
We talked about that already. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, it's a deep hole that we can really dig a lot into. So yeah.
Yeah, I mean, because it's not an answerable question, is what I would say, but we can always hash it out.
Yeah.
Oof.
Yeah, I mean, and it's quick. Why don't you just describe the quick shebang of the teleporting problem?
Okay. The 2-minute teleport problem is basically, it's basically like a teleporter. Is a teleporter actually teleport you somewhere else, or is it like a suicide box that kills you and creates a copy of you? And one of the fun ways I've heard it is, there's this like teleporter that, people you create teleporters and people start using them every day. And, and that's just how society works. And then one day there's a problem where you go into the teleport machine and, it goes, but you don't end up anywhere. So they're like, oh, sorry, like there was a mistake on this end. Part of this teleporter was broken. So they kind of find out what goes on. And it turns out like on the other end of the teleporter, you walked out having thought you were teleported because it scanned you, measured all of your atoms in alignment, and then the thing sent that information over, and then the teleporter on the other end rebuilt you exactly as you are, atom by atom. Because that's what this magical device does. And they say the part that was broken was the part that after it scans you, kind of breaks you down and gets rid of you on this end. Mm-hmm. So they're like, oh, sorry about that. And then they like pull out a gun and it's like, we can fix this by just, killing you now. And then the you that got teleported to the other side would never know, right? Because it's just going through its thing. So it's like, this little anecdotes about like, is it really teleporting you or is it copying and killing you every time? And I would never step into a teleporter personally.
Wow, actually, that's a lot more interesting than I expected.
Yeah, no, it's I guess I would step into a teleporter if they essentially just accelerate each atom across the world.
So, all right. So now we got to get into this. So So does the teleporter copy information and do a different, but replaces it with like a new atom, or does it send your atom? But does the fact that that particular atom was in you really matter? Like, does that matter, Mike? It doesn't. And atoms are indistinguishable particles anyway, right? Like, I'm pretty sure there's nothing in physics that can tell like one type of certain atom from another, right? They're indistinguishable, I believe. Physicists, professional physicists, potentially correct me.
Right.
So
but
you're
an
like,
atom
that's
of carbon
obviously
is
stupid.
an atom of carbon. Yeah.
So, but when you start to dig into it, you're like, well, then what makes you specifically? And the question's not. There's no comfortable answer.
No. I mean, I agree. I mean, I think about this far more than I should, which is why when I go to sleep, I am like half the time panicked because I'm like, I'm dying right now.
If anything, sometimes you go through it enough, like you go deep enough, and then you're like, what does death even mean if like me as a person, like this idea of me as a person doesn't really exist? Like this is all like made up. It doesn't matter, right? Sometimes you go around and then start like relieving your anxiety, but
right.
Well,
no, that's all true. I mean, and that's why I say Shu isn't necessarily wrong. Like, I mean, as I think about like, so I took it the wrong way, as in like, you meant like I need to, like when I was, I guess, younger, I was like, oh, I need to figure out me and that to extend me so I can figure out the universe. I think instead of understanding me, it's more just meshing me in the universe, or so like looking within to figure out the out. So, I mean, that's why when I said Shu's Buddhist concept was good, I mean, it's like, it's true. I mean, if you realize if you reach whatever their, like, enlightenment, I mean, maybe you do just disappear and become one with the universe.
Wow.
Well, I mean, I think we're all going to disappear and become one with the universe, whether you reach enlightenment or not, Mike. But look, well, the moral of this story is the only type of teleporter you want to step into is one that's like a wormhole that just bends space so you can walk through it and end up somewhere else. But if it's like those Star Trek shit, don't touch it. Don't go in.
That's right.
Well, actually, the moral story is that space travel is fine. Just don't forget to look inside, look inside as well, right? Explore what's in here right now, right? So do both.
I don't know. Dogs are pretty happy. They have very little ability to be introspective, so I say ignorance is bliss.
So maybe what you should be doing is looking at how to turn yourself into a dog. get on that CRISPR gene stuff, you know?
You don't need to do that. You just need to commit a sin, and then next life, according to Buddhism, you will be reincarnated as an animal. You know, so
That's true.
Maybe a dog.
No, I mean it's interesting, and I mean that's why. So last week we talked about potentially doing like very what do you call it? Very localized like lobotomies. I mean, I'm not necessarily saying I'm not for it at this point.
What do you want to get out of it? Oh, the anxiety thing.
Yes, yeah.
Wants to be happy. Mike, this is all a bunch of fancy words to just say, I want to become an alcoholic, right? We've had
yes.
a millennia-old solution to turning off parts of your brain and relieving anxiety.
All right, now this time, we have to transition to Stoicism. And I talked about last time, I talked about like Stoicism as a solution to, ease your anxiety, right? So why do you have the anxiety in the first place, right? So anyway, the correction to last week is that I think we talked about Stoicism, but we kind of define it kind of not correctly, because I think we kind of define it, it's very similar to like just suck it up, right? Actually, it's not. That's the most common misconception of Stoicism and the modern almost like definition in a way. It's a misconception. So Stoicism is not about like suck it up, right? So actually, originally it came from like some philosopher was like just lecturing outside his like porch somewhere in ancient Rome, 2,000 years ago. So Stoic means actually a porch. So it's like a philosophy of the porch, right? So it actually is a philosophy talk about like a branch of philosophy basically talk about like how to live a life, how to better be virtual and all the other stuff, right? And then I guess giving an example is like sucking it up is like, it's more like, instead of sucking it up, it's more like how to build resilience, right, to stress and like difficulty in your life, right? So the way that one Stoicism principle is that you need to like constantly expose yourself like to stresses, like intentionally, right, to build these kind of muscles, right, so you're more resilient. So for example, like you like try to maybe go hungry for a week or something, right? So you say, okay, I just try to build out your basically stressful muscles, right? And then also like maybe to live like homeless for a week or something, right? To build this kind of resilience to hardship, right? So this is something that they suggest. And the other one, going back to the like anxiety thing, actually Stoic principle, like philosophy principle, number one is that, quote, that we don't react to events, right? We react to our judgments about them. And the judgments are kind of up to us. We can control our own judgment, right? Because we actually don't react. What it means that we don't actually react to the reality of the event. Like reality. We actually, we see the reality, we form an opinion or some kind of judgment. Then we react to the judgment or the opinion of the reality, right? So we actually don't, there's something in between, right? Between the reality and our reaction. But usually we kind of don't realize the in between, which is our own judgment of the reality, right?
No, I mean, no. I mean, that the perception being an individual thing is like, yeah, I mean, I guess I don't necessarily have a good example. I'm trying to think of one, but yeah, I feel like recently I'm appreciating more. I mean, I guess especially, I mean, this is just sort of, I guess the news of the day is all about just politics, and it's like, and sort of how the realities of like the far left and the far right are almost like distinct realities in a way. And I guess the fact that their perceptions can be so wildly different is, I guess, a testament to what you're talking about, right? Actually,
I have a pretty good example, right? Mike, you are very reactionary and very like always get what do you call that? Like just very get angry whenever you see some kind of like Facebook post about socialism and liberal left opinions about, especially like cancel culture, political correctness, right? You always got riled up very, very fast. So that is because you have a judgment about, okay, this idea is wrong. Then you react to your judgment, right? So that's an example.
Well, I would say, so I would say that to some extent, I mean, I think the posts that were more extreme that I would have that reaction to were very much like, oh, like any amount, like, oh, we need to just tax people's wealth or tax 100% over earning a certain amount of money or something like pretty far to the left like that. And I think that's because
that's your judgment, right? That's your opinion that is actually pretty far to the left, right? Your opinion and this is your judgment and this is a bad idea.
Yes, exactly. Yes. So I think that's why it inspired like an immediate like anger or frustration is because yes, in my view, that is literally like how I perceive it is that is damaging to society as a whole. So that's my view. Yes.
But reality is that idea maybe is a pretty okay or good idea.
Yes, the reality is that it could be a good idea. I don't see the merit in it. I honestly don't. But
so for Mike to be a better stoic and to deal with his, like when Mike's having anxiety thinking about his mortality at night, is he practicing stoicism by like thinking about that, or is the issue that he needs to go put his life in like actual danger, and by experiencing like real stress, he won't have so much anxiety just thinking about these things on his own? What would you say is like the better application of the philosophy?
No, Stoic definitely talk about death a lot. I'm just not there yet. I'm still reading a book, so I'm still on principle number 1. So stay tuned.
Okay, I was gonna say because like
how to deal with death in the future. Yeah,
death is the big one because I would say we're all pretty good about like with respect to like I guess using lighter stresses to prep you for more like difficult stresses. Just because like I mean, for example, like I mean we all go to the gym relatively regularly. So that's essentially like stressing our body, causing small tears in the muscle to build muscle, right? I mean, so that is it very much just like hurting yourself a little for gain, like longer term gain in strength. And obviously the PhD is in a way, basically just
hurting yourself psychologically
yes,
for
exactly.
long-term gain.
Yes, exactly. So the PhD is putting sort of continually stressing your mental health to hopefully help in the long term. And I mean, because for example, like when I started my job, there were times when people like said to me like, "Oh, like that was sort of a stressful meeting," or like that was a tense meeting, and I'm like, yeah, sure. Like, and I'm like, I don't think you know what a tense meeting is. So I think like on the sort of those two fronts, I mean, I think we sort of do prep ourselves, but I think that's because like, I mean, death in a way is like the ultimate stressor, right? It's like, cause the point of these, I guess, is like, you you continually like in a way stretch yourself, right? Like so you stretch yourself more and more so you don't hit a stressor that breaks you, right? But I mean, death breaks everyone. So I'm interested to hear about how they tell me to solve that.
All right, stay tuned.
That's right.
Yeah, so I guess one practical thing that we can do actually to practice principle number 1 actually is just to name, like you see something, right, and you have a name for it usually, right? So sometimes maybe use a different word for the name, right? So I would say my example that came to me is racism, right? So I think racism is a word that is you encounter it, right? Well, you guys are white privileged male, so you probably don't encounter it, but personally, if I see it, I haven't really. Anyway, so yeah, so I would say if you like encounter racism, right? You see something or you react to it, right? It's something reality. Maybe someone says something, and then you interpret it, judge it as a racism, right? That's the name for it. However, racism, as I said before, I struggle with. I don't like the word, right? Because it puts a power differential, right? It kind of assumes that okay, someone superior to you is looking down, discriminate against you, who is the lower person. And that's why I don't like it, right? It kind of put me in it's not empowering, right? It put me in almost like an inferior race in a way, right? So that's why if I call someone racist, that means I almost like I feel bad because okay, what did I do? What did I do that made him look down at me, right? So that is very, very, very discouraging in a way to your self-esteem, right? So one way to rename it, right? Racism is called I think so rename it to something called racial misunderstanding. That I heard from Jamie Foxx. I heard an interview that he was like throughout his life, whenever he faced racism, he always, instead of calling it racism, he just said, oh, it's a racial misunderstanding, right? So that kind of put everybody in a equal footing, right? You are not looking down on the other person. There's no superior, no inferior. It's just a misunderstanding, right? So that renaming so you rename it as a racial misunderstanding, and that's your judgment. Then when you're reacting to it, your reaction will be much healthy in a way, right? So that's one example or one way to practice it, just to rename whatever you are, your judgment of the reality, right? Anyway,
So I mean, I feel like this has been, what I'm about to say has been talked about to death, but do you feel like then Stoics are sort of like take an opposite approach to sort of things like trigger and content warnings or safe spaces? And I know people rant about those and they're not as big of a deal as sometimes the right makes it out to be, but do you feel like, the Stoics would say what you really should be focusing on is like adjusting your judgment to these, things rather than trying to like isolate yourself from them if they upset you?
Yeah. You mean instead of it's like isolate yourself, you should expose yourself to these. Instead of isolating yourself to these like controversial idea, you should reframe it, like rename it, have a different judgment about it, stuff like that. Is that what you mean?
Yeah, I don't know. I was just kind of asking.
I would say Stoic would say we have a different definition of safe space, right? I mean, and it's for me, safe space means it's just a place where, like university, where you can actually expose to different controversial ideas, right? And that is safe space to me, right? Safe space is not a space where you actually go in, you don't say anything, right? Like controversial or hurt other people. Safe space is a place, it's a safe because you can go in there and have controversial ideas, debate stuff, controversial ideas, right? And then that way, it's a safe space because no one's gonna get hurt, by talking about these controversial ideas. So that's my definition of space, safe space. Also, I think Stoic will encourage that because you actually expose yourself to controversial ideas, to stress, right? It stress you out emotionally, kind of in a way, right? Maybe in a safe space, but actually make you better, right?
Right. Yeah. No, I mean, I agree with that, but I guess the safe space, I guess as it's currently defined or currently, I guess, used in more popular culture is, more toward what I think Matt was getting at, which is sort of like exclude certain ideas, right?
Yeah, I think that's typically these days how it's often used, but anyway.
No, I hear a lot of even though they are not, I think people are more in the middle, right? Not extreme illiberal. I mean, even I think I consider them liberal. Some people I hear them define those safe space, right? Yeah.
Well, so there's two ways we could define liberal in two ways, right? There's liberal as in like just left leaning, and the more left you are, the more liberal you are. But then there's like liberal, the actual like political and philosophical kind of ideas. And that's separate from like leftism and like leftists who are like the socialists, hate liberals, and liberals are generally capitalist.
Yeah, but I would say that maybe in the definition of safe space got overran by these leftists because they speak much louder, I say, in the media, especially like New York Times.
Well, hey, I mean, this is a whole different topic, but words, it's, everyone knows it's not, what is it? It's not prescriptivism, but descriptivism. What's the linguistic? Do you know what I'm talking about, Mike? The meaning of words is how they're used rather than like what the origin or correct way was. Is what most like linguists would tell you, is what I've heard. It's like saying like this is like the real definition of word doesn't really matter if if a word means how people use it, basically.
Right. I see. Well, regarding that, I guess that came to me. So you guys hate cancel culture, right?
I'm not a fan.
Yeah. For the most part, I disagree with it. I mean, I think that basically people should be able to say what they want, and if they continually show hateful ideology, then I guess you don't support them, but I'm not necessarily in favor of like a tweet from 8 years ago basically costing people their livelihood.
Yeah. So actually, I was thinking about the other day, it's like cancel culture actually is not bad. It's bad is because it's overviewed, almost like became abused. So it's similar to the idea of political correctness. And it's from a few years ago, and the way you define political correctness, to me, I feel that's a good thing. But it became bad because it was overused and abused by the media and other people, right? So fundamentally, cancel culture and political correctness, they're both good things. But once it became too much, right, and then it became bad.
No. And I feel like the problem is it gives random people this sort of like, in a sense, it gives them power, and power associated with like righteousness. So they get to feel like, oh, I'm the righteous person, like striking down this evil person using, the power of the internet or whatever. And I think that can be intoxicating to a lot of people, but it's not actually like moving the world forward in a good way often. It can, like, sometimes, yes, it could be a good thing, but like you say, but I think it's very easy to like have people start abusing it because it feels good, right? Rather than trying to like understand a complex situation, or maybe say like, hey, this person said something bad in the past, but he's apologized now, he's changed his views. It's more satisfying to be like, he's evil, it's black and white, we're good, we gotta, stop him. Like they've never believed anything bad in their life,
Right. And I mean, I think most complex problems require discussion of sensitive topics that, like, I'm doing it now. The phrasing you use about any, like, whenever you consider a complex topic or any controversial topic, like, in the current system, like, if you don't phrase it correctly, it can cost you everything. And I think that type of eggshell walking, like, is ultimately a bad thing.
Yeah, I think, that makes sense. Like, even Me Too movement, right? A lot of people in the Me Too movement actually came out to say, "Hey, I think we are overdoing it, right? So we don't want to swimming back, right? Because if you swim it too far, the pendulum is gonna swim back, right? So actually, I think people in the Me Too movement actually they realized that to a certain extent, and some of the people came out and said, "Hey, this is this is not different level. It's not rape, right? So yeah."
Right. Yeah. Well, I mean, I think as with everything in life, people like to sort of deal with things in sort of binaries, like good, bad, or good, evil. And when I think, generally speaking, there's obviously a continuum. I mean, and when it comes to speech, I mean, yeah, there's certain speech that's like, I mean, obviously, like what you would hear at like a Ku Klux Klan rally. Like, obviously, that's hateful. Like, you can it's pretty much agreed upon by the vast majority of people. Like, yeah, it's wrong. It's there's no real place for it. But at the same time, like, it's very easy when you're dealing with those types of those types of example. It's very easy to say, see, it's like evil like that, but it's but at the same time, as you say, there's like levels, like humor, for example. Like, is racial humor, does that fall in the absolutely evil category, or does that fall in between good and evil?
Depends on the person, but if white person talk about racial humor, is not humor, right?
Well, that's what some people believe. So, I mean, I would contend
Not believe
that probably
it's the truth.
Yes. Again, wait a minute. What was it about? What was it last week? What did we go over with last week's show? That you have to use less certain language.
Oh yeah, uncertain, some kind of uncertainty. Don't use undoubtedly. Don't use certainty.
Yes. So I mean, in any case, yeah. So I mean, like obviously there's, hate speech that. I mean, I guess the 99.999% of people would say, like, this is wrong. But how do you police that in a way? Like, I mean, is it just, do we just rule out, like, the most extreme cases? Like, I mean, if people are reading from, like, Mein Kampf, like, okay, we say, like, okay, like, that's banned. But then you're immediately going to get people saying, well, that's not far enough, or you're going to get people, depending on how you're policing that, like, okay, it's like you can't use like these words in this specific order. Does that really accomplish anything? Because it's like, I mean, I guess.
You use mob police, right? Crowd police.
Mob justice.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, then you have the current culture we live in. So, I mean, so as soon as someone tweets something that they were intending to be a joke or something, like, language is just tricky. I mean, it's like, how do you police language? Like, Sam Morrill, who's a comedian, actually had sort of a funny joke. So he said, hate speech, I'm misquoting him, I'm sure, but it was something to the effect of, like, hate speech is like a tomato. Tomatoes are fruits, but if you include them in fruit salad, they fuck everything else up, or they fuck up the salad or something. So it's like hate speech is, hate speech is still, he compared hate speech, I guess, hate speech is to free speech is what tomato is to fruit. So it's like, yeah, I blew the joke, but yeah, because I was trying to.
That's a pretty bad joke.
I know I should have just looked it up, but I tried to recall it from memory.
Why it seems to touch a nerve for you? Like why is that? You seem to very care about this issue. Like, did you say something controversial in the future that you're afraid that's going to surface in the future? In the past,
not really, but I mean, no, but it's more just like I've never really written or done anything with respect to like race or gender or anything that was overly controversial, but it's
you were just thinking about it.
It's just more like I've seen, I like humor, and it's like, I like dark humor, and I think that sort of the exorcism of that society wants to do, I think, is, to be just idiotic. I mean, like, I think humor in a way is honestly better about like enabling difficult discussions than almost anything else.
All right, I think that's we're gonna end with the Mike rant today.
Yes. Oh man.
Any thoughts to that, Matt? You have anything to add to that?
Well, going back kind of one topic back to what started this with the stoicism and talking about your judgment to things, right? You said don't call it racism, call it racial misunderstanding. And I was just thinking, I'm like, I won't call, like, that's a really good idea, because I won't call people socialist. I'll just call them intellectually challenged. And then we kind of like reframe the discussion around like the real issue here,
Yes. Lack of education. That's
all right. That was my joke that I wanted to say.
That's pretty good.
That's
perfect end.
No, Mike's really into the whole comedy thing. So I guess I get why this is a issue that touches him personally.
Yeah. Well, it's just like, I think comedy, like, in an ideal world, like, if you're trying to be funny, or even if you're trying to just like fix problems, just like difficult problems, societal problems, like problems where people interface with each other, then I think people need to, I guess, do whatever reframing, as Stoicism would say, that they need to do to sort of deal with, like, not give language the power it seems to have at this point. Because, I mean, language, like, I agree language has power, and words can hurt, etc. But I mean, the fact that it's not, I don't want language to not have power. I just want people to be able to use the power it has to discuss and discuss and problem solve together. And I feel like if you give it too much power, like to the point where you're actually like language is dangerous and people are like intellectually unable to make assessments for themselves because certain languages is just so dangerous. I mean, I think that is dangerous in itself. I mean, I just think people need to be able to not censor themselves and like talk openly enough. And it's like, if their ideas are hateful and come from a place of malice, then I hope that the vast majority of people are able to see that. So
I don't know if we're trying to wrap up, but so maybe if this is getting too much into other things, just tell me. But like in general, I agree with you that like, I don't think in an ideal world, I don't think it's a problem if people say stupid, hateful things, because I think more people recognize why it's bad, why it's wrong, and will respond. And most people are reasonable. And when you see someone reasonable discussing with someone who's an idiot, who's hateful, like I think generally when these discussions happen, it pushes people towards the right way. Like I'm generally pro, things like, debating these topics. But I mean, and we've seen it a lot in modern times, especially with like echo chambers, where there's not that debate. There's just, one side kind of indoctrinating some people who aren't actually like looking at the other side. And I'm still like very pro free speech. I'm not saying like we got to ban that stuff, but it does seem to be having some issues here where there isn't that other side debate. And, so you don't get the two sides. And I understand that in general, free speech is good, but you could probably fairly argue that in some instances, allowing people to say this stuff like did harm because they were able to convince a certain number of people, things that are like objectively bad. And
well, Nazi Germany. Yeah. I mean,
Nazi Germany. Yeah. There you go. That's a good example.
Yeah. But no, I agree with that. Like, I don't know why when you were talking, I was just thinking it's so random, but I guess the, what do you call it? Like, free speech echo chambers are like the monopolies of speech.
That is not a bad example.
Yeah. So it's like, I guess like if you're in an echo chamber, like, and basically you're going to just get like the same crap recycled and like essentially the quality of what's coming out of it is going to go down. And in monopolies, like that's why you don't want monopolies, because there's no competition and the quality of the product goes down. So
the open market. So when people talk about like the open marketplace of ideas, you're taking that like more literally.
I'm taking that more literally. Let's extend
this analogy. You cannot have a monopoly. Feel like if you don't, conservatives, if you don't at least import 10% liberals for every like post, you're going to be shut down. Same for liberals. Like get with it.
Yes, that's right. No, I mean, it's not necessarily bad because I mean, I do see it. It's like on both sides. I mean, I see just terrible ideas. And it's just like, in a way, it's like, it gets to the, like, I don't even know if I have a good example right now, but in a way, like on both sides, you'll see an idea that's almost like accepted as fact on what, like on a conservative side or a liberal side or a left side. And, yeah. And it's like you're accepting this as fact when it's just like absolutely not true.
Yeah, that is a problem.
Again, that's your interpretation of the reality. So
yes, I need to change. Again, perception is an individual experience, so maybe my perception is just totally wrong.
Junto Club.